Hi everyone, it's Deb. I'm here with a very chitty chatty, I think, project share. This is for This and That with Michelle. She was hosting a challenge and she put a video up this morning and said she hasn't had a single entry into her challenge, and then, or maybe it was yesterday, I forget, and then I noticed that Helen Lewis posted a project share video, and I had planned to participate, but for some reason I had it in my head it was due by the 12th and it's due by the 9th, I think she said, or the 7th. Anyway, her challenge was called Music is the Soundtrack of Your Life, and what she wanted was a pocket letter showing her our interpretation of the soundtrack of your life. And it said it could be a favorite song or artist that's always made you happy and brought you through hard times, could be a musical instrument you play or whatever. Well, I was really struggling with this because I love music. I love different kinds of music, and this is part of the storytelling. Just a little background. My father loved country. You know, the old country, not the newer stuff. My mother, I don't know what you'd call what she liked. I call it elevator music. Yeah, I don't know. And then I had some really huge influences when I was very, very, very little. And the rest of the story I have to tell you as we go. So mine is going to definitely be like the soundtrack of my life. It's kind of my life via the musical influences. So here's my, what do they call those things? Cliff Notes version of my life through music. Okay. So where do we begin? I really struggled with, how do I begin this? I don't know. I can't pinpoint an artist, and I do this, I've done that, you know, my kids did this and that, I like this genre and that genre. So anyway, here we go. Way back when I was a wee little thing, probably about 2.5 or 3, but it has stuck in my head. My grandfather owned a restaurant it had like a restaurant bar, and there was a dance floor, and they had live bands there. Okay. And my aunt at the time, she was the youngest aunt on my dad's side, was probably like 18. And I remember this song playing, the band or somebody was playing it. It was Roses Are Red, My Love, originally sung by Bobby Vinton. This was probably a local band doing it. I don't know. Anyway, and it's Roses are red, my love, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, my love, but not as sweet as you. And there's more to the song. I actually I couldn't remember who did the song. I just remembered that chorus. And that was probably one of my earliest recollections of music, and I loved my aunt. Her name was Diana, and I still love my aunt. As far as I know, she's still living, but she doesn't have internet, and I have no idea how she is, and I wish somebody in my family would tell me, because yeah. Anyway, I printed the words out, and it's like a 50s song, but I guess I heard it in yeah, it would have been probably late 50s, early 60s. I was very little. So that is one of my first musical memories of my Aunt Diana. Oh, I didn't go on. She was dancing with somebody, probably, I don't know. You know, I don't know who. She was dating and dancing at that time. And I remember her dancing on the dance floor in the sort of bar area. It was in like, the bandstand was in a corner, and then the bar was over on the right, and the dance floor was sort of in the middle, and that you could see from the dining room. And I was so little, I had this doll, which I still have to this day, and I was carrying her around by her hair. She was almost as big as me, dragging her on the dining room restaurant floor. There you go. There's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Now, since I was so little, things could be confused, but that's how I remember it. So I put Sweet Memories, and I put that. Now, just a word about Diana. She also, and probably still does, I don't know, is a wonderful organ and piano player. When I used to, we didn't go to my grandparents' house very often because we lived 3.5 hours away. And, you know, for my mom and dad, my dad to be off work and then take us kids along on this trip for 3.5 hours. We did it maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years. It just depended. So anyway, she could play beautifully, and the last time I visited her home, which has been many years now, she still could play beautifully. So that also was an influence. So moving along, I'm a young child, school age now, and we had a piano. We didn't have a grand piano, but this is the only sticker I could find in my stash, actually, and it was from Jot. It was this ballet Love to Dance one, which I actually do love to dance. I stink at it, but I love to dance. I just move. I don't know any steps or anything. Anyway, it had the piano on here, and I took piano lessons for 5.5 years as I was very young. I probably started around the age of 5, and probably 4, and I stopped around 9 or 10. So it was either 4 or 5 to 9 or 10, something in that range. I wish I hadn't stopped, but anyway. So with the piano, my mother played also. I wouldn't say either one of us played great, but we tried. And I had lessons. I had a wonderful piano teacher, and at one point I was getting pretty good because she wanted me to go be in a recital, but I, believe it or not, I was very shy. Still am in a way underneath, but I've grown the tougher skin, but I'm still a relatively shy person. My family would disagree with that probably, but anyway. And I'm an introvert. And a couple things influenced my decision. One was my mother, because I always felt like nothing was good enough, and I still do. And I had a fear of making mistakes, and in public especially, because, and I'm like that. Even when I craft, I make mistakes. When I play music, I make mistakes. I have to stop, start over again, or sometimes I was taught, just keep going, maybe they won't notice it. Yeah, well, I notice it. So anyway, I didn't do the recital, and after that, shortly after that, I stopped taking lessons. So kick Deb in pants, you know. So my point being, with this piano playing, I grew an appreciation for classical music. And some of my favorites are listed here. And you guys are all tearing these books up, and it tears at my heart to see music paper being torn up and put in junk journals. I'm sorry, it just does, because I still have it. I'm vintage, I guess, because look, 3rd grade book. This is my last, and I don't think I was in 3rd grade. I think I was in like 5th grade or 6th grade maybe when I stopped. But you progress from kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade books. And it was the John Thompson Modern Course for the Piano. And look how yellow the pages are, right? So here's one of my all-time favorites. I got an A+ in 1966. There you go. by George Frederick Handel, Saraband. So I'm not going to show them all to you, but my kids grew to love these. Well, I don't know if they loved them, but they grew to appreciate them because I always played these three and a couple of other ones. Saraband by Handel, Berceuse from Jocelyn by Goddard, and Ballad by, I think it's Frederick Bergmüller. And there's stories about them in this book, and I felt like I think I'm going to have to do a journal. A musical life story journal, some kind of, you know, like my life and music kind of journal. And I'm no musician for sure, but I have an appreciation, right? Okay. So moving on, I start to go into my teen years. And what do we have in the teen years is we have rock and roll. Good old rock and roll. And but here's the thing. I put 60s and 70s on here because really that's the era I grew up listening on radio and to music. And this is when all the British, what did they call it? The British explosion or something like that. Anyway, the infiltration of the Brits in our music, whatever. And I love it. But I had an 8th grade English teacher, and it was the first time in a classroom that I remember anyway, so it really must have been an influence. This English teacher had us listen to Simon and Garfunkel and hear the poetry in the music. Now, I love poetry. I can't write it, but I love to read it. And a little tidbit you didn't know about me. So yeah, I love poetry. And I love Simon and Garfunkel to this day. And my son, I did play some of that on the piano also, but not great because their music is more geared for guitars. But he had gotten me this old friend Simon and Garfunkel. This is a long while ago, guys. This is tapes. It's a cassette tapes, three cassette tape pack, but it has nearly all of their well-known, anyway, and some of the other ones, they aren't well-known songs. So the songs I love the most from Simon and Garfunkel that still strike a chord with me or a nerve is Scarborough Fair, I Am a Rock, that one still, even like today. The Sound of Silence, that is the most beautiful song. I love it. There's one I just heard, Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m. There's another one called, where is it? The Boxer. There's a lot of them. I mean, almost every song on here. There's a couple I'm not crazy about, but most all of them are poetry to my ears and music I just love to listen to. So this is my first, 8th grade, I guess, was my first real connection of poetry and music. And, oh, I don't know, I told you my father liked country, right? And my mother liked elevator music. But I'm growing up in good old rock and roll, and also still having piano. I had another neighbor, her name was Anita, and she invited me in her house one time. We played this piano duet called Heart and Soul. Yeah, I won't sing it for you, but I'm singing it in my head. So I still have that. And I didn't get into really the hard rock, as I would call it. Like, my brother kind of did. You know, like the Jimi Hendrix and the, oh shoot. I'm so bad with names, and I'm getting old, and my mind is going. But anyway, you know what I mean, the hard rock. I think I more tended towards folk rock, I call it, because now that's not to say I didn't listen to some, and you know, driving your Chevy to the levee, good old rock and roll. Yeah, I like those songs a lot. And Eric Clapton I still like. a lot, because his songs, even though they're heavier rock, they speak to me, his words, and sometimes make me cry. Anyway, so here I am, teenager, and Wild Thing. Yes, I believe it or not, I was a little bit on the wild side for probably from 8th grade till 11th grade. So yeah, I had a little bit of a wild side there. Not terrible, but enough. And I did have 33s. I still have 33s. Those are known as plastic, I guess now, or whatever. I also had 45s, and I had it in this plush. We used to call it Cousin It. It was a plush, it was a carrying case, but it was round, and it had hot pink fuzzy all over it with eyes on it. It looked like Cousin It, which unless you're my age, you have no clue what I'm talking about. So anyway, the Wild Thing also is a song, and that becomes important because my son, when he was growing up, used to love that song, Wild Thing. And yeah, so some of my favorites coming out of my teens later and still to this day: Fleetwood Mac and also Stevie Nicks, separate. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, probably my all-time favorite. Somebody I didn't list on here, but I should have. I don't know why I forgot them. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Love them. And I was so sad a few years back when Mary passed away. But I actually got to go see them, and they were fantastic. I mean, I got to go see them as an adult. So they were probably already in their, I don't know, late 50s or something when I saw them, but they were absolutely fantastic. Loved them. The place I went to see them at doesn't exist anymore. I also have seen Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and also just Crosby and Nash. Fantastic musicians in their time. The last time I saw them, they were starting to get a little, what do you call it? Harmonization wasn't quite as good, but you know what? They're older than I am, you know, can't blame them. The Beatles, Yesterday. I love to play Yesterday on the piano. I still have the sheet music. This is for piano. Lennon and McCartney. Yeah, loved it. There are a few other ones I like of theirs, but that one sticks out in my mind. And I also grew to love Jewel, and I wouldn't classify her as rock, but I'm getting more into the folksy folk rock. I still listen to a little country. I don't mind country because I understand the words. Most of it I don't mind. I still can listen to classical, but for the most part, my favorite is what I classify as folk rock or folk. So being true to myself, that's where I'm at. And then down here, my daughter came first. I have ballet on here. She was in ballet for a while, but I checked with her and I said to her, what music most influenced you when you were young growing up? And she said, probably Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. I used to play them quite a bit. Rhiannon of Stevie Nicks, love that song. I really like Stevie Nicks. I also really like Christine McVie. She has a wonderful deep voice and played the piano or the keyboard. So yeah. So I influenced my daughter through my music love. She didn't really stick with ballet. Now, our little Haley, who will be 6 in December, she's in ballet now. Courtney took ballet and gymnastics, and she opted to stay more in gymnastics. So, and that's fine. And she actually played saxophone. Well, my daughter took one semester, or not semester, school term of violin, not for her. 12 years later, I had a son, and he ended up opening my ears to bass. His love probably still is bass. He played the double bass, the big thing, you know, the stand-up. He was pretty good at it too. He had long fingers, although I think he says he thinks he might be getting arthritis from that. And then later in high school he changed to bassoon, also bass, which is a wind instrument. So, and I asked him about his things that he likes, and he grew up so much with me playing the classical saraband, Berceuse, ballad. So he grew up with classical as well. But when he was young, we used to go in a restaurant that had little jukeboxes on the tables. He always wanted to play Wild Thing. So it was just kind of cute and funny. And he remembers that. It's something in his memory now. So I'm kind of happy I have that influence on my kids, and that my daughter anyway is influencing her children to love music. So there's some other things I couldn't even put on here. I'll just let you know. The Sound of Music, that movie, and the music to it. I have the music for the piano, but that was a big influence in my life as well. I love the song, The Sound of Music. You know, The Hills Are Alive. I also love the song My Favorite Things from that, and there's probably some others. As far as religious music, there's a couple songs. This one was my mother's. It's called He, and it's a beautiful song, and I have never heard it played anywhere. I see how yellow it is. This is from 1954, when it was published. It's lyrics by Richard Mullen and music by Jack Richards. It was recorded by this Al Hibbler on Decca Records. I don't know, but it is about him. And it's a beautiful song. So I love that. And my all-time favorite hymn of Amazing Grace. And you know, Woodstock was going on and all that stuff. And who was it? Joan? Darn, I can't remember names. Anyway, there was a lady singer that at that time sang that beautiful song, and just gorgeous. It makes me cry every time I hear it, but I love it. Probably when I die and get buried, that song has to be played. Or there's we consider it a Christmas song. My son loved to play it on his bass, and it's Green Sleeves, or What Child Is This? So that is the third most loved religious song, I think. So I've already talked to you about the Beatles, the Simon and Garfunkel, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, just about everything I love of theirs. Dark Star is really one that comes to mind. Peter, Paul and Mary, If I Had a Hammer, Where Have All the Flowers Gone, This Land Is Your Land, Leaving on a Jet Plane. My son's father was into Bob Dylan. Now, I couldn't stand Bob Dylan's voice, but I do love his lyrics, many of his lyrics, not all of them, many of them. So again, poetry in music. Jewel, like I mentioned. So yeah, so how do I end all this? I say, have your own story, remember your story. And I want to thank Michelle, because I have to say, my piano right now is collecting stuff and dust. I have not played the piano for probably the last 2 or 3 years, and connecting the dots, that's about the time my mother started really having health issues. January 2016 was the first time she fell, and I'm thanking you, Michelle, because you're bringing part of my life back to me. that I really was starting to forget. I haven't been playing music, either myself on the piano or even really listening to music. Even in the car, I used to have music on all the time in the car, and I have not been. And, oh, here's another one. My son. So guys, I think I was going to show you this piano man. There towards the end, I didn't know the phone cut off the camera, but it did, of course. So yeah, this was another favorite. And I almost had a chance to meet Billy Joel, but I missed out on it, so boo hiss. Anyway, that was years ago when I was working and away on travel. Anyway, so I just have here, own your story, collect beautiful moments, because the journey is the destination. And every now and then reminisce, think back on all these things, that songs and things that have some memory associated with them. And that's what's important in life, is your experiences and your memories and people. And my cat just about knocked my hot glue gun off. So this is my pocket letter. I have to say, I don't think it's, in many ways, it's not the best one I ever did, because I just have a lot of words on here. Oh, I didn't even show you what I used. I used Stampin' Up paper called Petals Promenade. It was this 12 by 12 sheet. Gorgeous. And on the back it has like this marbly pink. So there's nothing in the back right now. I will be putting in a separate goodie bag, I think. I used 2 Offray ribbons, this pale pink and this silver, because I know Michelle, one of the requirements is you had to have pink in here somewhere, and I do, but also I know she likes silver, so I did put silver in as well. I used Dollar Tree stickers and Artsy stickers. Don't think I can even find them now. Hang on, I'm looking. No. Maybe they're right here. Sorry. Okay. I used one Dollar Tree sticker out of this pack. It was the one up here on the top, the greenish one. I used some Tim Holtz Ideology. I used the First Step in the Journey sticker out of here. I used a couple of these Sticko silver and white stickers here and here. I think they're from Walmart. Here's the Artsy. What I used out of here are the corners on the top left and right, and bottom left and right only, as well as these music notes here. Oh, I just noticed there's another music note in that. And I used the piano, the ballerina slippers, the princess crown, and the bass out of these Jot Love to Dance sticker pack. And then I also did use one silver doily. These are from Stampin' Up, but they're not current, they're retired. I had them in my stash from before I became a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I will continue to use them. But they are not available to you. I have to let you know that, so don't be disappointed. They now have the pearlized white, and there's a multicolor pack of doilies. And I did use, no, I didn't on this one. Okay, so then I also made Michelle, and thank you, Michelle, because, yeah, I don't know if I already said this or not because of the video cutting off, but I really appreciate you bringing back my passion for music. Okay, thank you, and my memories. I made her an an IC card. I can't remember if I ever made you one before, Michelle, so I'm sorry if I did. This one I did use powder pink cardstock from Stampin' Up. I used this sheet music background stamp, which I meant to use in in the pocket letter, but I got so on a roll as I was doing it, I just kept going and didn't even use any of it. So yeah. I used this powder pink stamp because I did tone on tone, and I used the powder pink shimmer ribbon. Yeah, shimmer ribbon. These are current. This is in the current annual catalog. So is this ink pad. So is this background sheet music stamp. And so is the color. These are from the In Color 2017 to 19. So these powder pink will not be in next year's after June unless they move it to one of the other categories of colors. So I started by stamping the sheet music. And I did use my Stamparatus to do that. Love this thing. It's just the right size for me. It's nice and solid, and it does have two glass things, but I only used one this time. This ribbon was in my stash. It's not Stampin' Up. It was Simplicity. I got it at Tuesday morning a while ago. 11/2016. Probably when I first started doing, I probably got it in 17 when I first started doing paper crafting. These blings, a couple of them are out of this Lollyberry box of blings, and mostly the blue, the clear, and I think that's it. These are bead landing words that I have in my stash. This flower was loose in my flower bin, so I don't know where it's from, which store. This is another piece of that silver ribbon, and these three little white pearls are the bead landing. You know, I've given quite a few of these away. I used quite a few of these, and I still have a third of a box. They're going to last me a good long while. I love them because they have like an iridescent quality. And the shimmer ribbon that I used, I taught myself from watching Mars from Michigan. Hi Marlene. Doing the finger bows. Took me about 3 tries, but I got it. And the scallop punch was the powder pink paper. This is Whisper White paper, and I went around the edges of both of them with this Blushing Bride Stampin' Right marker. Sorry. Yeah, I used the brush tip end. So let me put that away. And that, I don't have my information on the back yet or anything on the back. So that's my IC card for her. And my not quite matching pocket letter, but I think it's pretty anyway. Okay. Alright guys, let me know what you think. Should I have not done it this way? Did you enjoy my story? Do you think I'm nuts? Some days I think I'm nuts. Anyway, have a great Monday night, Tuesday, rest of your week. Hugs, love, and peace. Bye for now.